First question. You make friends. I'm going to be taking it on my phone as well. You make friends easily. I would say that I get along with people very easily, but to maintain friends requires too much time and effort and consistency, which I just have never possessed. I do envy those that have like a large friend group, but personally for me, I just know it's not sustainable. So I'm gonna say slightly agree. Actually, no, slightly disagree. I think maybe it's just a question of sociability, so I'll say slightly agree. Also, the cats might be wandering around, or making little like purring sounds. So if you end up seeing one kind of popping around or meowing, that's them. So what it means to lead, question number two. What it means to lead a good life is a question that you return to again and again. Strongly agree. Seeing other people cry can easily make you feel like you want to cry too. It really depends on the context, but I have the capacity to cry in empathy with someone else. So, moderately agree. You always do your best to prepare for potential obstacles in advance. Strongly agree. And I'm going to just prevent one of the kitties from jumping onto the table or kicking the microphone or kicking the camera. My anxiety just sparked, or my tension just sparked. Look like a baby. Okay. Question number 3. You usually stay calm even under a lot of pressure. I think it would seem like I stay calm. It would seem like I stay calm, but I do feel it. But I would say, yeah, I moderately agree that I do stay pretty calm. My son. He's gonna tippity-toppity over. My boy. At social events, you rarely try to meet new people and mostly talk to the ones you already know. Strongly agree. Next. Concrete facts and details, not theories and ideas, are what stick in your memory. Concrete facts and details, not theories and ideas. Quite the opposite. I really do like theorizing and playing with different ideas, but likewise, I'm also a sucker for facts and details. So I would say that moderately agree. Okay, I think this little adventure came to an end. You are very sentimental. Strongly agree. There are usually certain specific ways you like to do things. Not particularly. I think I'm pretty flexible, but I don't like it when someone consistently imposes their way constantly. I think that it's rude and disrespectful of my own input. But I would say that, yeah, I'm not really someone who has a usual way of doing something, but I'll slightly agree, just because I do, no, not on the laptop. I do like, kind of routine, so I would say moderately agree, because I do like routine. Even a small mistake can cause you to doubt your overall abilities and knowledge. I would say moderately agree. I'm gonna remove the car. A little bit of ASMR with this car. Fast and the Furious, Hot Wheels, Need for Speed. Top 3 games of all time on the Xbox. Changed my mind. You feel comfortable just walking up to someone you find interesting and striking up a conversation. Strongly agree. I tend to not, actually no, moderately agree. I think I tend to hesitate a little bit when it comes to someone that I find interesting, but it's only for a moment, because if someone really fascinates me, I'll go in for the kill and be like, yo, I really like what you do, or I really like your content, or I really like what you have thought about, or what your work is, and I'm here to tell you that. But I sometimes hesitate. Discussing various interpretations and analyses of a work of art is really not that interesting to you. Strongly disagree. You are more inclined to follow your head than your heart. Yeah, I would say so. Moderately agree. Even when you plan a particular daily routine, you usually just end up doing what you feel like at any given moment. Strongly agree. You rarely worry about whether you make a good impression on people you meet. You You rarely worry about whether you make a good impression. Strongly agree. You enjoy participating in group activities. Moderately agree. It feels a little clunky sometimes. Like, I love it, but sometimes to get it off the ground, it requires a little bit of like awkwardness. But once it's actually going, it can prove pretty fun and memorable. You like books and movies that make you work to figure out what they are really about. Yeah, strongly agree. You do your best to take others' feelings into account when deciding something. Moderately disagree. When I make a decision, in some respects, I will take into consideration another person's feelings, but if it's a decision for me, then no, I won't consider it because it's ultimately going to be for me, not for you. So that's my mentality. That sort of independence or assertion of my individuality. You prefer to completely finish one project before starting another. Moderately disagree. You are prone to worrying that things will take a turn for the worse. In certain respects, yes, strongly agree. You avoid leadership roles in group settings. I would say moderately, slightly disagree. You're definitely not an artistic type of person. Strongly disagree. You think the world would be a better place if people relied more on rationality and less on their feelings. I really like this argument that someone said, I think it was Martin Luther King Jr., his quote where he said that the irrationality, something along the lines of the irrational will be justified through the guise or through the mask of the rational, but in reality it's always going to be irrational. So it's kind of like alluding to this idea that you can really rationalize through anything and pretend it's logical, because no matter what, like, your mind will always provide some sort of reason or excuse or grounds for you to think a certain way. So whether it be feelings or rationale is ultimately down to the subjective experience. So to distinguish or say that rationale is in itself associated with logic or factual is in and of itself a false equivalency, because just because you've rationalized through something or just because there's rationale behind it doesn't necessarily mean that it's factual or logical. So I would say that you think the world would be a better place if people relied more on rationality and less on their feelings. Strongly disagree. I think people should be more conscientious of where their heart or empathy is, as opposed to rationalizing through every experience they have. You prefer to do your chores before allowing yourself to relax. Strongly agree. Your mood can change very quickly. Strongly disagree. Frequent alone time is a necessity for you. Strongly agree. You like hearing different perspectives on social or political issues. Strongly agree. You'd rather work with a competent person than a nice one. Strongly agree. You often end up doing things at the last possible moment. Strongly agree. Your emotions control you more than you control them. Strongly disagree. Control you more than you control them. Yeah, strongly disagree. You usually prefer to be around others rather than on your own. Strongly disagree. You become bored. Actually, no, I'll moderately disagree. Yeah, I'll moderately disagree on that one. You become bored or lose interest when the discussion gets highly theoretical. Strongly disagree. You find it easy to empathize with a person whose experiences are very different from your own. Strongly agree. You usually postpone finalizing decisions for as long as possible. Strongly agree. You rarely second-guess the choices that you have made. Moderately disagree. Actually, not strongly agree, I would say. Disagree. After a long and exhausting week, a lively social event is just what you need. I wouldn't say so, no. Moderately disagree. You often contemplate the reasons for human existence or the meaning of life. Strongly agree. You often have a hard time understanding other people's feelings. Moderately disagree. You like to have a to-do list for each day. Strongly agree. You rarely feel insecure. Strongly agree. Actually, I would say moderately agree. Moderately. You can spend entire weekends all by yourself without feeling bored. Strongly agree. You spend time and effort trying to understand views and positions that are very different from your own. Strongly agree. You often talk about your feelings and emotions. Strongly agree. If your plans are interrupted, your top priority is to get back on track as soon as possible. If your plans are interrupted, your top priorities, yes, strongly agree. You are still bothered by mistakes that you made a long time ago. Actually moderately disagree. In your social circle, you are often the one who contacts your friends and initiates activities. Moderately agree. You believe that pondering abstract philosophical questions is a waste of time. Strongly disagree. You take great care not to make people feel foolish when you're explaining something. Strongly agree. I don't like it when someone explains something in a very elitist or condescending way. I think that knowledge is meant for everyone, and it's to be enjoyed or to be shared in an excited or an enthusiastic way, or as a means to impart knowledge. But when someone starts lecturing someone else on, for example, classical music or history or any sort of prestigious or supposedly prestigious subject, and they take on this air of being holier than thou or higher than thou, it really grates me, because it's very, not only classist, but it's very disrespectful to someone who's just clearly curious or interested to learn what you at one point didn't know either. So that's kind of like my moral of the story for that question. Your personal work style is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy than organized and consistent efforts. Your personal work is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy. Strongly agree, although I'm working on it. When someone thinks highly of you, you wonder how long it will take them to feel disappointed in you. Strongly disagree. You would love a job that requires you to work alone most of the time. Strongly agree. You're always curious about why something happened the way it did. Strongly agree. You know at first glance how someone is feeling. I would say moderately agree. You complete things methodically without skipping over any steps. Strongly disagree. You often feel overwhelmed. Moderately agree. You feel more drawn to places with busy, bustling atmospheres than quiet, intimate places. Strongly disagree. You prefer art that has a clear message or meaning rather than art that is vague and open to interpretation. Strongly disagree. Although I'll moderately disagree, because I like both, but if something's going to be vague or abstract, there's room for me to sort of piece it apart and analyze it more than it would be for something that has more of a concise message. Although I do enjoy sort of putting that concise message in a grander setting to kind of play around with it too. But actually I'll remain neutral on that one. Neutral. If you think your actions might upset others, you are very careful to assess whether they are worth it. Moderately disagree. Now, if something's going to upset someone else, and if I have full conviction in it, or if I've thought it through, then ultimately their offense or their, what was the question? Their upset feelings are just something that they're going to have to manage, or something that they can either use as an excuse to sort of like, dismiss themselves from my presence. But I won't limit myself because of someone else's interpretations or because of someone else's feelings. You struggle with deadlines. Strongly agree. You feel confident that things will work out for you. Moderately agree. Female. See results. Okay. So my personality type is the mediator. INFP assertive. So I am 65% introverted. I saw that one coming. I am a little bit extroverted, but for the most part, I am quite introverted. My energy level is very much intuitive. Yeah, that's something that I'm not surprised by. I'm highly intuitive. My nature is very feeling. That's kind of how I make my decisions. That's very accurate. My tactic is to be more prospecting, but I know I can tend to be a little more both judging and prospecting. Judging in respect to being able to take like one decisive decision or make one point and then kind of expand from there, as opposed to prospecting, where you take several theories or several ideas and condense it to one. So I can do both, but I tend to lean on having several ideas or having several projects and then whittling it down to one. And then my identity is assertive as opposed to turbulent. I'm going to start reading. Okay. So the introduction. On the outside, mediators, which are the INFPs, may seem quiet or even shy, but they often have vibrant, passionate inner lives. Because they make up such a small portion of the population, people with this personality type may sometimes feel misunderstood or out of step with the world. Fortunately, their caring nature can help them create and sustain deep relationships with their loved ones. Mediators value authenticity, empathy, and harmony. These personalities tend to act with the best of intentions, and they are rightly proud of this trait. That said, they may feel isolated or discouraged when other people don't share their idealism. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. J.R.R. Tolkien. Speaking their truth. Many mediators are curious about the depths of human nature, and they often make an effort to understand other people's true feelings. This can make them capable of great empathy. It can also enable them to communicate in ways that are sensitive, original, and quite moving. Perhaps because of these strengths, mediators tend to crave opportunities for creative self-expression. It comes as no surprise that many famous mediators are poets, writers, and actors. People with this personality type often enjoy dreaming up all sorts of stories and possibilities. Mediators have a talent for self-expression. They may reveal their innermost thoughts and secrets through metaphors and fictional characters. By using their imaginations in this way, mediators can explore their inner nature and their place in the world. That said, they can have a tendency to daydream and fantasize rather than take action. If they don't act on their dreams and ideas, mediators are likely to end up feeling frustrated or unfulfilled, in search of a calling. Mediators may feel directionless or stuck unless they connect with a sense of purpose for their lives. Very true. For many mediators, this purpose has something to do with helping and uplifting others. Empathetic by nature, these personalities may feel others' people's suffering as if it were their own. This only strengthens their motivation to be of service. Although mediators might want to help everyone, they may need to focus their attention and energy on one worthy cause at a time. Otherwise, they can become so overwhelmed by all the problems they can't fix that when they're tempted to give up on even trying. This is a sad sight for mediators' friends, who often depend on their hopeful outlook. Fortunately, like flowers in the spring, mediators' creativity and idealism can bloom even after the darkest of seasons. Although they know the world will never be perfect, mediators still care about making it better however they can. This quiet belief in doing the right thing may explain why these personalities so often inspire compassion, kindness,